Sometimes the smallest acts of courage create the biggest miracles. A little girl with a disability sells lemonade on a quiet street corner, dreaming of something that seems impossible. Her determination catches the attention of someone unexpected. Bruce Springsteen stops his car. What happens next will restore your faith in humanity. This is a story about a little girl who sells lemonade, and how one chance encounter changed everything. When kindness meets courage, magic happens. Don't miss this incredible true story that proves dreams do come true. The complete story. The summer heat shimmered off the cracked asphalt of Maple Street in small-town Pennsylvania. It was one of those afternoons where time seemed to move slower, where the weight of humidity made everything feel suspended in amber. The cicadas hummed their endless song from the oak trees that lined the residential street, their branches heavy with green leaves that hadn't yet begun to hint at autumn. At the corner of Maple and 3rd Street, where a faded stop sign stood crooked from years of Pennsylvania winters, sat something that would make most people slow down and take notice. A small card table, covered with a cheerful yellow tablecloth that had seen better days, held a hand-painted sign in bright red letters, "Emma's Lemonade, 50 cents." Behind that table sat 8-year-old Emma Rodriguez, her dark curls escaping from 2 mismatched hair ties, one blue and one pink. Her smile was the kind that could light up a room, genuine and infectious, the kind of smile that reminded adults what pure joy looked like before life complicated it. But what made Emma different, what made passing drivers do double takes, was the small wheelchair she sat in, decorated with colorful stickers of butterflies and rainbows that she had carefully placed there herself. Emma's wheelchair was old, clearly second-hand, with worn fabric on the seat and armrests that had been patched with duct tape more than once. One of the wheels squeaked with each turn, a sound that had become as familiar to Emma as her own heartbeat. But despite its condition, that chair represented freedom to her, the ability to move, to explore, to set up her lemonade stand and chase her dreams, even if they seemed impossibly big for someone so small. The pitcher of lemonade beside her was nearly full, condensation beading on its plastic surface. A small metal cash box sat open, revealing a few coins and a crumpled dollar bill. Emma had been there since 10 in the morning, and now the afternoon sun was beginning its descent toward the horizon. The traffic on Maple Street was light, mostly neighbors who knew her story, postal workers making their rounds, and the occasional delivery truck rumbling through on its way to somewhere more important. Emma didn't mind the slow business. Each car that passed without stopping wasn't a rejection to her. It was simply someone who didn't need lemonade today. Her optimism was the kind that adults envied, untainted by the cynicism that comes with age and disappointment. She had learned early in her young life that some battles were worth fighting, and some dreams were worth pursuing, no matter how long it took. The reason for Emma's lemonade stand wasn't just to pass time or earn pocket money like most kids her age. Taped to the front of her table was a photograph she had carefully cut out from a medical supply catalogue, a brand new pediatric wheelchair, sleek and modern, with smooth rolling wheels and adjustable features that her current chair lacked. Below the photo, in Emma's careful second-grade handwriting, were the words, "My dream chair, but $200. Emma's mother, Maria Rodriguez, worked 2 jobs, cleaning office buildings at night and stocking shelves at the local grocery store during the day. Her father had left when Emma was 4, unable to handle the reality of raising a child with spina bifida. Maria did everything she could, but after paying rent, buying groceries, and covering Emma's medical appointments, there wasn't money left over for luxuries like a new wheelchair. Insurance had covered Emma's current chair, but only the most basic model, and only after months of paperwork and appeals. So Emma had come up with her own plan. If she could sell enough lemonade, if she could save every penny, maybe she could buy her dream chair herself. She had done the math with her mother's help. At 50 cents per cup, she would need to sell 2,400 cups of lemonade. It seemed like a lot, But Emma approached it the same way she approached everything else in her life, one day at a time, one cup at a time, with unwavering determination. The afternoon wore on, and Emma served her lemonade to a handful of customers. Mrs. Patterson from down the street stopped by for her daily cup and always left an extra $1. The mailman, Joe, never failed to buy a cup, even though Emma suspected he didn't particularly like lemonade. These small acts of kindness added up, coin by coin, bringing Emma closer to her goal. As the sun began to cast longer shadows, Emma heard the rumble of an approaching car. She looked up expectantly, as she always did, her face brightening with hope. But this time, something was different. The car was slowing down. Not just slowing, it was actually stopping. The vehicle was a modest black pickup truck, not flashy or expensive, the kind that working people drove. The windows were tinted, so Emma couldn't see who was inside. For a moment, the truck sat there, engine idling, while Emma waited with the patient anticipation of someone who had learned that good things sometimes took time. Then the driver's door opened. The man who stepped out was tall and lean, with graying hair and kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. He wore a simple denim shirt and jeans, nothing that would make him stand out in a crowd, but there was something about the way he carried himself, a quiet confidence mixed with genuine humility, that suggested this was someone who had lived through both triumph and struggle. Emma didn't recognize him, not immediately. She was only 8 after all, and her world revolved around school, family, and her dreams of a new wheelchair. But something about his smile felt familiar, warm and authentic, in a way that made her feel instantly at ease. "Well, hello there," the man said, his voice carrying a slight rasp that spoke of years of singing, though Emma didn't know that yet. "I couldn't help but notice your lemonade stand. Mind if I take a look?" "Of course," Emma responded with enthusiasm, her voice bright with excitement. "I'm Emma, and this is Emma's Lemonade, the best lemonade on Maple Street." The man chuckled, a sound that was genuinely amused rather than condescending. "I'm Bruce," he said simply, "and I bet you're right about that lemonade." Bruce Springsteen, though Emma didn't know she was talking to one of America's most beloved musicians, approached the small table with genuine interest. His eyes took in the hand-painted sign, the careful setup, and most importantly, the photograph taped to the front of the table. "That's a beautiful wheelchair in that picture," Bruce said, kneeling down so he was at Emma's eye level. "Is that what you're saving up for?" Emma's face lit up even brighter. Most adults asked about her current wheelchair with a mixture of pity and discomfort, but Bruce was asking about her dreams. "Yes, it's my dream chair. It has smooth wheels and it adjusts and everything. My mom says it costs a lot of money, but I'm going to save up for it by selling lemonade." Bruce studied the photograph more carefully, noting the price written in Emma's careful handwriting, $1,200. For most people, it was a manageable expense. For a single mother working 2 jobs, it might as well have been $12,000. "How long have you been out here selling lemonade?" Bruce asked, settling into a more comfortable position beside the table. "Every day after school since April," Emma replied proudly, "and all day on weekends when it's nice out. I've saved up." "Let me check." She opened her small cash box and began counting carefully. $237.50. Bruce felt something stir in his chest, a familiar feeling he got when witnessing pure, undiluted determination. Here was a child who understood the value of work, who had set an ambitious goal, and was pursuing it with the kind of persistence that many adults lacked. "That's incredible, Emma. You're really working hard for your dream." "My mama says good things come to people who work hard," Emma replied, echoing the wisdom that Maria had shared with her daughter countless times. "She works really hard, so I want to work hard too." Bruce purchased a cup of lemonade, taking his time to savor it while they talked. Emma was a natural storyteller, sharing tales of her regular customers, her favorite stickers on her current wheelchair, and her plans for what she would do with her new chair when she finally got it. "I want to race other kids," she explained, her eyes sparkling with possibility. "And maybe I can join the basketball team at school. They have wheelchair basketball, you know, and I won't have to worry about my wheel getting stuck or making that squeaky noise anymore." As Bruce listened, he found himself thinking about his own childhood, about dreams that seemed too big and goals that felt impossibly distant. He thought about all the people who had helped him along the way, strangers who had believed in him when he barely believed in himself. "Emma," Bruce said after a while, "do you mind if I ask you something?" "Sure. What made you decide to do this all by yourself? Why didn't you just ask people to help you?" Emma considered the question seriously, the way children do when an adult treats their thoughts with respect. "Well, I did ask Santa," she admitted with a small giggle. "But Mama explained that sometimes Santa needs help with the really big presents, and I thought, if I can do it myself, then I'll know I'm really strong, you know? Like not just my arms from pushing my chair, but strong on the inside too." Bruce felt his throat tighten unexpectedly. In all his years of performing, meeting fans and hearing their stories, he had rarely encountered such profound wisdom, delivered with such innocent simplicity. "You know what, Emma? I think you might be the strongest person I've met in a very long time." Emma beamed at the compliment, not fully understanding its significance, but recognizing the sincerity behind it. Bruce stayed for another 20 minutes, buying 2 more cups of lemonade and learning more about Emma's life. She told him about her school, her teachers who helped her navigate between classes, her best friend Jessica who always saved her a seat at lunch. She spoke about her mother with obvious love and pride, describing Maria's long work hours and weekend shifts without a trace of resentment. "Mama's always tired, but she still reads to me every night," Emma shared. "And she helped me make this sign, and she drives me here every day before she goes to her day job." As Bruce prepared to leave, he pulled out his wallet. Emma expected him to pay for his lemonade and perhaps leave a small tip, as most customers did. Instead, Bruce pulled out a business card and handed it to her. "Emma, I want you to have this. There's something I need to take care of, but I'd like to come back and see you tomorrow, if that's okay." Emma took the card, though she was too young to read the small print that identified Bruce Springsteen as a Grammy-winning musician and Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee. "Okay, I'll be here tomorrow after school. I'm always here unless it's raining really, really hard." Bruce smiled. "Perfect. And Emma, keep being strong on the inside, okay? It's the most important kind of strength there is." As Bruce drove away, Emma waved enthusiastically from behind her lemonade stand, already looking forward to seeing her new friend again tomorrow. She had no idea that her life was about to change in ways she had never imagined. That evening, Bruce sat in his home studio, staring at the business card he had given to Emma, identical to the one she now held. He thought about the countless interviews he had given over the years, talking about the American dream, about working-class heroes, about the dignity of honest work. Emma embodied all of those ideals in their purest form. Bruce picked up his phone and made a call. "Hey, John, it's Bruce. I need you to help me with something." The next afternoon, Emma was back at her usual spot, her lemonade pitcher freshly filled and her optimism undimmed. She had told her mother about the nice man named Bruce, who had bought 3 cups of lemonade and promised to come back. Maria had smiled and reminded Emma that not all promises were kept, but Emma maintained her faith that Bruce would return. Sure enough, as the afternoon wore on, the familiar black pickup truck pulled up to the curb. But this time, Bruce wasn't alone. A woman stepped out of the passenger side. Someone Emma did recognize. "That's Sarah Mitchell from Channel 7 News," Emma exclaimed to herself, having seen the local reporter on television many times. Bruce approached the lemonade stand with Sarah close behind, followed by a camera operator who kept a respectful distance. Emma's eyes widened with curiosity rather than nervousness. She had never been on television before, but the presence of familiar Bruce made her feel safe. "Hi, Emma," Bruce said warmly. "I brought some friends to meet you and try your lemonade. Is that okay?" Of course. The more people who try it, the more I can save for my dream chair. Sarah knelt down beside the table, her professional demeanor softening as she met Emma face to face. Emma, Bruce told me about your lemonade stand and your goal to buy a new wheelchair. Would it be okay if we talked about it? Maybe other people would like to hear your story. Emma looked at Bruce, who nodded encouragingly. If you're comfortable with it, Emma, you don't have to do anything you don't want to do. I think it would be okay, Emma decided. Maybe other people will want lemonade too. The interview that followed was unlike anything Sarah had expected. Emma spoke with the natural eloquence of a child who had never been taught to hide her truth. She explained her condition matter-of-factly, without self-pity or embarrassment. She talked about her goals with the kind of unwavering certainty that made adults remember what it felt like to believe in impossibilities. Some people look at my wheelchair and think I can't do things, Emma told the camera. But I can do lots of things. I can make really good lemonade, and I can save money, and I can work really hard. My wheelchair helps me do all those things. Bruce watched from the side, occasionally stepping in to purchase more lemonade, but mostly just observing this remarkable child share her story with the world. Emma, Sarah asked near the end of the interview, what would you like to say to other kids who might be watching? Emma thought for a moment, her face serious with concentration. I think everyone has something they really want, something that seems really hard to get. But if you work a little bit every day, and if you don't give up, maybe you can get it. And even if you don't get exactly what you want, you'll get stronger trying. That's what my mama always tells me. After the camera stopped rolling, Bruce purchased several more cups of lemonade, while Sarah promised Emma that the story would air on the evening news. Emma was excited about the prospect of being on television, though she was more excited about the possibility of new customers. As they prepared to leave, Bruce pulled Emma aside. Emma, I have something for you. He handed her a small wrapped box. It's not much, but I thought you might like it. Emma opened the box carefully, revealing a small silver charm in the shape of a musical note. It's beautiful, but what's it for? Well, Bruce explained, I'm actually a musician. I play music and write songs, and meeting you has inspired me to write a new song. This charm is to remind you that sometimes the most beautiful music comes from the strongest hearts. Emma didn't fully understand what Bruce meant about being a musician, but she clutched the charm tightly. Thank you, Bruce. This is the nicest present anyone ever gave me, except for my wheelchair. That evening, Emma's story aired on Channel 7 News. The 3-minute segment showed Emma behind her lemonade stand, talking about her dreams with infectious optimism. It showed her counting her savings, explaining her goal, and sharing her philosophy about hard work and perseverance. The story might have ended there, a feel-good piece that made viewers smile before they moved on to the weather forecast. But something extraordinary happened. Within an hour of the broadcast, the Channel 7 phone lines were flooded with calls. People wanted to know where Emma's lemonade stand was located. They wanted to buy lemonade, make donations, and meet this remarkable little girl who had touched their hearts. By the next morning, Emma's quiet corner of Maple Street had been transformed. Cars were lined up down the block, all waiting for a chance to buy 50-cent cups of lemonade from the girl with the big dreams. Emma, with help from her mother, who had called in sick to work, served cup after cup to customers who often left tips far exceeding the cost of their purchase. Local businesses began arriving with donations. The pharmacy brought cases of bottled water and paper cups when Emma ran out of supplies. The grocery store delivered fresh lemons. A local printer made professional signs to replace Emma's hand-painted one, though Emma insisted on keeping her original sign as well. News crews from neighboring cities arrived to cover the phenomenon. National morning shows called requesting interviews. But through it all, Emma remained grounded, focused on her goal, and genuinely grateful for every customer who stopped by. Bruce returned every afternoon, sometimes with other musicians from the area, sometimes alone. He watched with amazement as Emma's simple lemonade stand became a symbol of hope and determination for the entire community. By the end of the first week, Emma had raised over $800. She was within reach of her goal, closer than she had ever imagined possible. But more importantly, she had become a source of inspiration for people throughout the region. "I still can't believe all these people want to buy my lemonade," Emma confided to Bruce during one of his visits. "I keep thinking I'm going to wake up and it will all be a dream." "It's not a dream, Emma. It's what happens when people see real courage and want to be part of something special." On Friday afternoon of that remarkable week, Bruce arrived at Emma's stand with an unusual request. "Emma, would you like to take a little break from selling lemonade tomorrow? There's somewhere I'd like to take you and your mum if she says it's okay." Emma was curious but agreed. Maria, who had been overwhelmed by the community's response to her daughter's story, trusted Bruce implicitly. There was something about his genuine care for Emma that put her at ease. The next morning, Bruce picked up Emma and Maria in a larger vehicle, a van equipped with wheelchair accessibility. Emma was thrilled by the lift that raised her chair into the van, something she had never experienced before. "Where are we going?" Emma asked as they drove through town. "It's a surprise," Bruce replied with a smile, "but I think you're going to like it." They drove for about 30 minutes, eventually pulling into the parking lot of Miller's Medical Supply, a large building that Emma recognized from the address on the wheelchair catalogue she had studied so many times. "Are we going to look at wheelchairs?" Emma asked, her voice filled with excitement. "Something like that," Bruce said mysteriously. Inside the store, they were greeted by Mr. Miller himself, who led them to the pediatric wheelchair section. Emma's eyes immediately found her dream chair, the exact model from the photograph, displayed prominently in the showroom. "Go ahead," Bruce encouraged. "Try it out." Emma transferred to the demonstration chair with practiced ease, and immediately her face lit up with joy. The wheels moved smoothly and silently. The seat was perfectly adjusted to her proportions. The armrests were comfortable and sturdy. "It's perfect," Emma whispered, running her hands over the smooth surfaces. "It's everything I imagined." "I'm glad you like it," Mr. Miller said with a warm smile. "Because it's yours." Emma stared at him in confusion. "But I haven't saved up enough money yet. I still need $400 more." Bruce knelt down beside the wheelchair. "Emma, do you remember when I told you I was a musician?" Emma nodded. "Well, I've been playing music for a lot of years, and I've learned that sometimes the most important thing you can do is help someone else achieve their dreams. You've worked so hard, saved so much money, and inspired so many people. Your lemonade stand taught all of us about determination and courage." Bruce pulled out an envelope and handed it to Emma. "This contains the rest of the money for your wheelchair. It comes from people all over the country who heard your story and wanted to help. But more importantly, it comes with a message." Emma opened the envelope with trembling hands. Inside was a check for the remaining amount, along with a letter signed by hundreds of people from across the United States. Maria read the letter aloud, her voice breaking with emotion. "Dear Emma, your story has reminded us what it means to work hard for our dreams and never give up. You have shown us that age doesn't matter, that limitations don't define us, and that determination can move mountains. We are honored to help you get your dream chair, and we can't wait to see what amazing things you do next." Emma sat in her new wheelchair, tears streaming down her face, tears of joy, gratitude, and overwhelming emotion. She had set out to save money for a wheelchair, but she had gained something far more valuable: the knowledge that dreams can come true, that hard work pays off, and that sometimes kindness comes from the most unexpected places. "But what about all the money I saved?" Emma asked. "I worked so hard for it." Bruce smiled. "That money is yours, Emma. You earned every penny of it. Maybe you can use it for something else you've been dreaming about." Emma thought for a moment, then looked up with determination. I want to give it to other kids who need wheelchairs, kids like me who are trying to save up for their dream chairs." Maria gasped softly. Even after receiving such an incredible gift, her daughter's first instinct was to help others. "That's a beautiful idea, Emma," Bruce said, his voice thick with emotion. "I think that might be the most perfect use of that money I can imagine." They spent the rest of the afternoon at the medical supply store, making final adjustments to Emma's new wheelchair and completing the paperwork. Emma refused to leave her old chair behind, insisting that it be donated to a child who needed it. As they prepared to leave, Bruce had one more surprise. "Emma, there's something else I want to share with you. Remember when I told you that meeting you inspired me to write a song?" Emma nodded eagerly. "Well, I finished it. It's called Emma's Song, and it's about courage, dreams, and never giving up. Would you like to hear it?" Right there in the medical supply store, with Emma in her brand new wheelchair and Maria wiping tears from her eyes, Bruce Springsteen played his guitar and sang a song he had written about a little girl who sold lemonade and taught an entire community about the power of persistence. The song was simple but profound, with lyrics that captured Emma's spirit. "She sits behind her table every day, with a smile that lights the way. 50 cents a cup of hope, teaching us we all can cope when dreams seem far away." When the song ended, Emma wiped her eyes and said quietly, "That's the most beautiful thing anyone ever made for me." The drive home was filled with comfortable silence, broken occasionally by Emma's expressions of amazement at how smoothly her new wheelchair had fit into the van, how perfectly it was suited to her needs. As they pulled up to Emma's house, Bruce turned to face her. "Emma, I want you to know that you've changed my life. You've reminded me why I started making music in the first place, to tell stories about people like you, people who face challenges with courage and dignity. You changed my life too, Bruce. You helped my dream come true." "No, Emma, you made your own dream come true. I just had the privilege of being there to watch it happen." The following Monday, Emma returned to school in her new wheelchair. Her classmates gathered around, amazed by the smooth wheels, the comfortable seat, and the obvious joy on Emma's face. But Emma was most excited to share the news about the fund she was starting with her lemonade money. "I'm going to help other kids get wheelchairs too," she announced during show and tell, "because everyone deserves to have their dreams come true." Emma's teacher, Mrs. Henderson, fought back tears as she listened to her student explain her plans. Even at 8 years old, Emma understood that receiving help came with the responsibility to help others. Word of Emma's generosity spread quickly, and soon other children, parents, and community members were contributing to what became known as Emma's Fund. Local businesses held fundraisers, schools organized penny drives. The community that had rallied around one little girl's dream now rallied around her mission to help others. Bruce continued to visit Emma regularly, sometimes bringing his guitar to play for the children at her school, sometimes just stopping by to check on his young friend. He watched with pride as Emma adapted to her new wheelchair, joining the school's wheelchair basketball team and participating in activities that had been difficult with her old chair. But more than the physical improvements, Bruce observed the way Emma's experience had deepened her empathy and strengthened her resolve. She approached challenges with even greater determination, and she looked for ways to help others with the same enthusiasm she had once reserved for selling lemonade. 6 months after that first afternoon, when Bruce had stopped at Emma's lemonade stand, the local community center held a special ceremony. Emma's Fund had raised enough money to purchase wheelchairs for 12 children throughout the state. Representatives from medical supply companies, disability advocacy groups, and families who had benefited from the fund gathered to honor Emma and the community that had supported her vision. Bruce was asked to speak at the ceremony, but he insisted that Emma should be the featured speaker. Standing behind the podium in her dream wheelchair, Emma addressed the crowd with the same natural eloquence she had shown that first day. "When I started selling lemonade, I just wanted a new wheelchair, Emma said, her voice clear and confident. I never thought about how many people would help me, or how many friends I would make, or how many other kids we could help together. She paused, looking out at the audience that included many of the people who had bought her lemonade, contributed to her fund, or simply cheered her on from a distance. I learned that when you work really hard for something you want, sometimes you get more than you asked for. I got my dream chair, but I also got to learn about kindness and friendship and how good it feels to help other people get their dreams too. Emma's speech was met with a standing ovation, but she wasn't finished. I want to thank everyone who bought my lemonade, even when it was really hot outside and you probably didn't want lemonade. I want to thank the news people who told my story. And I want to thank my friend Bruce, who stopped his car that day and reminded me that dreams really do come true. Bruce wiped his eyes as Emma continued. But mostly I want to thank my mama, who taught me that good things come to people who work hard, and who never told me I couldn't do something just because I have a wheelchair. As the ceremony concluded and people began to mingle, Bruce found himself reflecting on the past 6 months. He had performed on stages around the world, sold millions of records, and received countless awards. But nothing in his career had given him the same satisfaction as watching Emma achieve her goal, and then use her success to help others. "Pretty amazing kid, isn't she?" said a voice beside him. Bruce turned to see Maria, Emma's mother, watching her daughter as she chatted animatedly with other wheelchair users who had benefited from the fund. "She gets it from her mother," Bruce replied sincerely. Maria smiled, but shook her head. Emma was born with that spirit. I just tried not to get in its way. They stood in comfortable silence, watching Emma demonstrate the features of her wheelchair to a younger child who was receiving a new chair of her own. "You know," Maria continued, "Emma still talks about that first day you stopped at her lemonade stand. She says it was the day she learned that strangers could become friends, and friends could become family." Bruce felt the familiar tightness in his throat that seemed to happen whenever he thought about Emma's wisdom and generosity. "She taught me a few things too," he admitted, "about courage, about persistence, about the difference between wanting something and working for something." As the evening wound down, Bruce approached Emma one final time before leaving. "So, what's next for you, Emma? Any new dreams you're working toward?" Emma's eyes sparkled with the same enthusiasm she had shown that first day behind her lemonade stand. "Well, I'm thinking about starting a lemonade business again," she said with a grin. "But this time, all the money will go to Emma's fund. And maybe I'll learn to play guitar too, so I can write songs about other kids who are chasing their dreams." Bruce laughed, imagining Emma with a guitar, sharing her gifts with the world in yet another way. "I think that sounds like a perfect plan. And if you ever want some guitar lessons, you know where to find me." As Bruce drove home that night, he thought about the song he had written for Emma, and the many songs that had yet to be written about people like her. Ordinary individuals doing extraordinary things, quietly changing the world one cup of lemonade at a time. Emma's story had become more than just a tale of a girl who wanted a new wheelchair. It had become a reminder that dreams are worth pursuing, that hard work pays off, and that kindness has the power to transform lives in ways we never expect. The lemonade stand was long gone, replaced by a small plaque on the corner of Maple and 3rd Street, that read, "Emma's Corner, where dreams begin." Eddie! But Emma's spirit lived on, in every child who received a wheelchair through her fund, in every person who was inspired by her story to pursue their own dreams, and in every act of kindness that rippled out from that first afternoon when a little girl taught a famous musician about the true meaning of courage. Years later, when Emma was older and had indeed learned to play guitar, she would sometimes perform at fundraising events for Emma's fund. She would tell her story to new audiences, always emphasizing the same message that had guided her from the beginning, that dreams are worth working for, that help comes from unexpected places, and that the greatest joy comes not from achieving your own goals, but from helping others achieve theirs. And sometimes, if the audience was lucky, Bruce Springsteen would join her on stage, playing the song he had written about a little girl who sold lemonade and changed the world one cup at a time. The story of Emma and her lemonade stand became a legend in their small Pennsylvania town, passed down from parent to child, from teacher to student, from neighbor to neighbor. It became a reminder that heroes don't always wear capes or perform on grand stages. Sometimes they sit behind small tables on quiet street corners, working toward their dreams with unwavering determination and infectious optimism. Emma's fund continued to grow, eventually helping hundreds of children across the country get the wheelchairs they needed. But perhaps more importantly, Emma's story continued to inspire people to look for ways to help others, to pursue their own dreams with persistence, and to remember that the smallest acts of kindness can create the biggest miracles. In the end, Emma's lemonade stand was never really about lemonade at all. It was about hope, determination, and the beautiful things that happen when one person's dream becomes a community's mission. It was about the power of a child's pure heart to remind adults what really matters in life. And it was about a chance encounter on a summer afternoon that proved once again that sometimes the most extraordinary stories begin with the simplest moments. A little girl, a lemonade stand, and a stranger who chose to stop his car and pay attention to something beautiful happening right in front of him. Emma's message to the world remained constant. Never underestimate the power of hard work. Never lose faith in your dreams, and never forget that the greatest strength comes from helping others find their own. Sometimes the person you help might change your life in return, and sometimes a stranger can become your greatest ally in ways you never imagined. The corner of Maple and 3rd Street might look quiet now, but those who know the story understand that it will always be a place where magic happened, where dreams came true, and where a little girl proved that with enough determination, kindness, and a 50-cent cup of lemonade, anything is possible. But Emma's story didn't end with the ceremony at the community center. If anything, that celebration marked the beginning of a new chapter in her remarkable journey. As Emma entered her teenage years, still in her beloved dream wheelchair that had served her faithfully, she began to understand the broader implications of what had happened that summer day when Bruce Springsteen stopped at her lemonade stand. The media attention had faded, the news crews had moved on to other stories, but the impact of her actions continued to ripple outward in ways she was only beginning to comprehend. At 15, Emma had become something she never set out to be, an advocate. Schools across the state invited her to speak to students about perseverance and disability awareness. Medical conferences asked her to share her perspective on pediatric mobility equipment. Non-profit organizations sought her input on fundraising strategies and community engagement. Emma approached each opportunity with the same genuine enthusiasm she had brought to selling lemonade. But now her message had evolved and deepened. She had lived through the experience of setting an impossible goal and achieving it, and she had learned that the achievement itself was only part of the story. When I was 8 years old, I thought getting my dream wheelchair would solve all my problems, Emma would tell audiences, her voice now carrying the confidence of someone who had lived through both struggle and triumph. What I learned was that getting what you want is just the beginning. The real question is, what are you going to do with what you've been given? Bruce had remained a constant presence in Emma's life throughout these years, not as a celebrity patron, but as a genuine friend and mentor. He attended her high school graduation, where Emma delivered the valedictorian speech to a standing ovation. He was there when she received her first college acceptance letter, and he cheered from the audience when she performed her first solo guitar performance at a local coffee shop. The relationship between Emma and Bruce had evolved into something profound and mutual. While Bruce had initially been the one offering guidance and support, he increasingly found himself learning from Emma's perspective on life, resilience, and purpose. She sees possibilities where most people see obstacles, Bruce confided to his wife one evening after attending one of Emma's speaking events. Every time I think I understand the depth of her wisdom, she surprises me again. Emma's college years at Penn State brought new challenges and opportunities. She studied social work with a minor in music therapy, combining her passion for helping others with the musical skills Bruce had helped her develop. Her dorm room was decorated with the same butterfly and rainbow stickers that had adorned her old wheelchair, a reminder of where she had come from and how far she had traveled. During her sophomore year, Emma received a call that would once again change the trajectory of her life. A documentary filmmaker had heard about her story and wanted to create a feature-length film about Emma's fund and its impact on families across the country. "I'm not interested in making a movie about me," Emma told the filmmaker during their first meeting. "But if you want to make a movie about the kids and families that Emma's fund has helped and the community that made it all possible, then I'm listening." The resulting documentary, titled 50 Cents of Hope, followed several families as they navigated the challenges of obtaining mobility equipment for their children. Emma appeared throughout the film, not as the central figure, but as the thread connecting these stories of determination, community support, and unexpected kindness. Bruce contributed not only as an interview subject, but also by creating an original soundtrack for the film. The centerpiece was an expanded version of Emma's song, now performed as a duet between Bruce and Emma, whose guitar skills had progressed remarkably over the years. The documentary premiered at the Sundance Film Festival, where it received a standing ovation and sparked conversations about healthcare access, disability rights, and community responsibility. But for Emma, the most meaningful moment came during the Q&A session after the screening, when a young boy in a wheelchair raised his hand. "My name is Marcus, and I got my wheelchair through Emma's fund," the boy said, his voice strong despite his obvious nervousness at speaking to such a large audience. "I wanted to ask Emma, how did you know that helping other kids would feel even better than getting help yourself?" Emma smiled, recognizing something familiar in Marcus's earnest expression and determined spirit. "I didn't know," she answered honestly. "I just knew that when someone helps you achieve your dreams, you want other people to feel that same happiness. It wasn't really a plan, it was just what felt right." The success of 50 Cents of Hope led to unexpected opportunities. Emma was invited to speak at the United Nations about disability rights and community activism. She testified before Congress about the importance of making mobility equipment accessible to all children, regardless of their family's financial circumstances. Through it all, Emma remained grounded in the simple wisdom that had guided her from the beginning. During her UN speech, she spoke about her lemonade stand with the same pride and clarity she had shown as an 8-year-old child. "I learned early that big dreams require small, consistent actions," Emma told the international audience. "Every cup of lemonade I sold was a tiny step towards something that seemed impossible. But more importantly, I learned that achieving your dreams isn't just about reaching your destination. It's about who you become along the way and how you use your success to lift others up." The speech was translated into dozens of languages and shared widely on social media, but Emma was most proud of the letters she received from children around the world who had started their own fundraising efforts inspired by her story. As Emma approached her college graduation, Bruce surprised her with an invitation that left her speechless. He was embarking on a farewell tour, his final series of concerts after 5 decades of performing, and he wanted Emma to join him for the show in Philadelphia. "Not just to watch," Bruce clarified when he called with the invitation. "I want you to perform with me. Emma's song has become one of my most requested numbers, and it doesn't feel complete without you there." The night of the concert, Emma waited backstage with a mixture of excitement and nervousness she hadn't felt since her first lemonade stand interview years earlier. The Wells Fargo Center was sold out, filled with fans who had followed Bruce's career for decades. When Bruce introduced Emma to the audience, he didn't focus on her disability or her fundraising success. Instead, he talked about friendship, about the unexpected teachers who appear in our lives, and about the power of meeting someone who sees the world with fresh eyes. 15 years ago, I met a little girl who taught me something I thought I already knew, Bruce told the crowd. She reminded me that courage isn't about not being afraid. It's about being afraid and doing the right thing anyway. She showed me that the American dream isn't just about achieving success for yourself, but about using that success to help others achieve their dreams too. When Emma wheeled onto the stage to join Bruce for their duet, the audience rose to their feet before they had played a single note. But as Emma began to sing, her clear voice harmonizing perfectly with Bruce's seasoned rasp, something magical happened in that arena. 20,000 people fell completely silent, hanging on every word of a song about a little girl, a lemonade stand, and the power of believing in impossible dreams. The performance was captured on video and became one of the most watched concert clips in social media history. But for Emma, the most meaningful moment came after the song, when Bruce turned to her and said simply, "Thank you for teaching me what real rock and roll looks like." After college, Emma took a job with a national disability advocacy organization, but she continued to run Emma's Fund as a volunteer effort. The fund had grown far beyond what anyone had imagined possible, providing wheelchairs and mobility equipment to over 1,000 children across the United States and expanding internationally to help families in developing countries. On the 10th anniversary of Emma's Fund, the organization held its largest fundraising gala ever. The event was held not in a fancy hotel ballroom, but in the community center where Emma had given her first major speech years earlier. Local businesses donated food and decorations, volunteers helped with setup and coordination, and the entire event embodied the grassroots spirit that had made Emma's original lemonade stand so special. Bruce performed at the gala, of course, but so did many other musicians who had been inspired by Emma's story over the years. Local school choirs sang, wheelchair athletes demonstrated their skills, and families who had benefited from the fund shared their stories. But the highlight of the evening came when Emma announced the fund's next major initiative, a partnership with schools across the country to create empathy gardens, accessible outdoor spaces where children with and without disabilities could play, learn, and grow together. My lemonade stand taught me that when you create a space where people can come together around a common purpose, amazing things happen, Emma explained to the gala audience. These gardens will be spaces where children learn that differences make us stronger, not weaker, and where every child can experience the joy of working towards something bigger than themselves. The announcement was met with enthusiastic applause, but Emma wasn't finished. She had one more surprise for the evening. I also want to announce that Bruce Springsteen has agreed to write the theme song for our Empathy Garden project. And I'm going to help him write it, because after all these years, he's finally taught me enough about music to be a real collaborator. Bruce feigned surprise and protest from his seat in the audience, generating laughter from the crowd who had witnessed their friendship develop over the years. But when he joined Emma on stage for an impromptu performance, it was clear that their musical partnership had indeed evolved into something special. As Emma entered her late 20s, she reflected often on the path that had led her from a simple lemonade stand to international recognition as an advocate and change-maker. She had received numerous awards and honors, been featured in books and documentaries, and spoken to audiences around the world. But the achievement she was most proud of was the simplest one. Emma's Fund had helped its 2,000th child receive a wheelchair. The recipient was a 6-year-old girl named Sophia, who lived in the same small Pennsylvania town where Emma had grown up. Emma drove to Sophia's house to personally deliver the wheelchair, bringing with her a small card table, a yellow tablecloth, and all the supplies needed for a lemonade stand. "Would you like to help me set up a lemonade stand?" Emma asked Sophia, who was trying out her new wheelchair with obvious delight. "But I thought you were famous now," Sophia replied with the blunt honesty of childhood. "Don't famous people not sell lemonade anymore?" Emma laughed, remembering her own questions and assumptions from years past. "Sophia, I learned something important when I was about your age. Being famous isn't about having people know your name. Being famous is about doing something that makes the world a little bit better. And sometimes the best way to make the world better is one cup of lemonade at a time." They spent the afternoon together, Emma teaching Sophia how to make the perfect pitcher of lemonade, how to make change for customers, and most importantly, how to greet each person who stopped by with genuine gratitude and enthusiasm. As the day wore on and neighbors began stopping by Sophia's impromptu lemonade stand, Emma found herself transported back to that first summer day when her own impossible dream had seemed so far away. She watched Sophia's face light up with each sale, saw her carefully counting the coins in her cash box, and recognized the same determination and hope that had driven her own 8-year-old self. Bruce arrived unexpectedly that afternoon, having heard through the grapevine that Emma was hosting a lemonade stand with Sophia. He bought a cup of lemonade from Sophia, leaving a generous tip, and spent time talking with her about her plans and dreams. "What do you want to do when you grow up?" Bruce asked Sophia. "I want to help kids like Emma did," Sophia replied without hesitation. "I want to make sure every kid who needs a wheelchair can get one, and I want to teach them that having wheels doesn't mean you can't go anywhere you want to go." Emma and Bruce exchanged a meaningful look, both recognizing the continuation of a cycle that had begun 15 years earlier with a simple lemonade stand and a chance encounter. As the sun began to set and they packed up Sophia's lemonade stand, Emma reflected on the journey that had brought her to this moment. She had started with a personal dream, getting a new wheelchair. That dream had expanded to helping other children get wheelchairs. Then it had grown to encompass disability advocacy, community building, and social change. But sitting there with Sophia, watching this new generation carry forward the same spirit of determination and compassion, Emma realized that her greatest achievement wasn't any of the awards or recognition she had received. It was the simple fact that a little girl's dream had become a movement, and that movement was now inspiring new dreamers to believe in their own impossible possibilities. "You know what I learned today?" Emma said to Bruce as they drove away from Sophia's house. "What's that?" "I learned that the best stories don't really end. They just inspire new chapters, written by new people, in new places, with new dreams." Bruce smiled, thinking about all the songs he had written over the years about dreamers, fighters, and everyday heroes. "That sounds like the beginning of a new song to me." "Maybe it is," Emma agreed, "but this time I think Sophia should help us write it." And so the story continued, not with an ending, but with a new beginning. Emma's fund kept growing. The Empathy Gardens project took root in communities across the country, and children like Sophia carried forward the message that dreams are worth pursuing, that community makes everything possible, and that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness create the biggest miracles. The corner of Maple and 3rd Street still bore its small plaque commemorating Emma's original lemonade stand. But now that corner was just one point on a map that connected thousands of children, families, communities, and dreamers who had been touched by a simple story about a little girl, a pitcher of lemonade, and the extraordinary things that happen when someone believes in the impossible. Years passed, and Emma's story became part of local folklore, then regional legend, and eventually national inspiration. But Emma herself remained rooted in the same values that had guided her 8-year-old self: work hard, help others, never give up, and remember that every person you meet is fighting their own battles and chasing their own dreams. The partnership between Emma and Bruce evolved from friendship to family. Bruce walked Emma down the aisle at her wedding to a fellow social worker she had met during her advocacy work. He was there when Emma's first child was born, and he insisted on being the first to teach the baby a simple song about kindness and courage. Emma's Fund established an annual scholarship in Bruce's name, providing support for young musicians with disabilities who wanted to pursue careers in music therapy and advocacy. The first recipient was a teenager who had learned guitar while recovering from a spinal injury, inspired by the story of a little girl who had learned that music could heal hearts and change lives. The Empathy Gardens project exceeded all expectations, creating accessible play spaces in over 500 communities worldwide. Each garden included a small pavilion with a plaque telling Emma's story, not as inspiration porn or tragedy overcome, but as a simple reminder that ordinary people doing extraordinary things can change the world in ways they never imagined. On Emma's 30th birthday, the town of Maple Street officially renamed the corner where her original lemonade stand had operated. It became Emma's Corner of Hope, complete with a permanent lemonade stand installation where children could learn about Emma's story and contribute to the ongoing work of Emma's Fund. The dedication ceremony was attended by hundreds of people whose lives had been touched by Emma's story over the years. Families who had received wheelchairs through the fund, musicians who had been inspired to get involved in disability advocacy, children who had learned about perseverance and kindness through Emma's school presentations. Bruce performed at the dedication, of course, but the highlight was when Emma took the stage with her own guitar, the same model Bruce had played when he first sang Emma's song to her in that medical supply store years earlier. 22 years ago, I sat at a small table on this corner with a big dream and 50-cent cups of lemonade, Emma told the crowd. I thought I was trying to buy a wheelchair, but what I was really doing was learning that dreams are meant to be shared, that communities are built one cup of kindness at a time, and that the most important question isn't, what do you want? But how will you help others get what they need? She paused, looking out at the faces in the crowd, some familiar, some new, all connected by the simple story of a little girl who had refused to let limitations define her possibilities. Today, as we dedicate this corner to hope, I want to challenge each of you to find your own lemonade stand. Find the thing that scares you and excites you at the same time. Find the dream that seems too big, too expensive, too impossible. Then set up your table, make your sign, and start serving hope one cup at a time. The crowd erupted in applause, but Emma raised her hand for quiet. She had one more thing to say. And remember, the best lemonade stands aren't really about lemonade at all. They're about believing that tomorrow can be better than today, and that each of us has the power to make it happen. As the ceremony concluded and people began to disperse, many stopping by the new permanent lemonade stand installation to make donations to Emma's fund, Bruce found himself standing alone with Emma at the exact spot where they had first met. "Any regrets?" he asked, thinking about all the ways both their lives had changed since that first afternoon. Emma smiled, the same radiant smile that had caught his attention decades earlier, now deepened by years of experience, service, and joy. "Just one," she said. "I wish I could go back and tell that 8-year-old girl, sitting behind her little table, that she was about to embark on the greatest adventure of her life. But then again, maybe the magic was in not knowing what was coming next." Bruce nodded, understanding exactly what she meant. "The best songs are the ones you don't plan," he agreed. "They just happen when you're brave enough to start playing." As they walked away from Emma's Corner of Hope, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows behind them, both knew that the story was far from over. Somewhere, at that very moment, another child was setting up a lemonade stand, chasing an impossible dream, and taking the first steps on their own journey of discovery. And in communities around the world, children were playing in empathy gardens, learning wheelchairs were tools of freedom rather than symbols of limitation, and discovering that differences make us stronger, not weaker. The legacy of a 50-cent cup of lemonade continued to ripple outward, touching lives in ways both seen and unseen, reminding everyone it reached that dreams are worth pursuing. Kindness creates miracles, and sometimes the most extraordinary stories begin with the simplest moments of courage and hope.